Hello and welcome to the third installment of CincyRIMS Roll Call. I'm Adam Visnick, your host, and today we're diving deep into the dynamic world of risk and insurance management. Every episode, we have the unique privilege of introducing you to the brilliant minds that shape our community, sharing insights and expertise that keep us at the forefront of innovation and excellence. Today, we're thrilled to have another distinguished guest, a pivotal figure who's been instrumental in steering the course of risk management, not just in our community, but across the industry. Stay tuned as we unravel the journey, the challenges, the victories that he's encountered. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Robbie Robison. Robbie.
Thank you, Adam. Yep, thank you, Adam. I appreciate that large introduction. It feels much bigger than what you feel like you do every day. But yeah, enjoy being in this space.
Well, I'm glad you joined, and I'm going to start off by asking how you got started in your career in risk management. Tell me about that.
Well, it's actually an interesting career move, if you will. Back in the day, as a lot of people would say, you go off to college and you have these grandiose ideas of making it big in a particular industry. And my desire was to work in the area of chemistry. So my background education is that of a chemist. And started out a very short stint in the pharmaceutical industry, and quickly found out that living my life in a laboratory was not what I really desired. I wanted to be out with people and interacting with them, and more in the business type world. And that's where I transitioned into a kind of a shot in the dark of working with an environmental firm. And I spent close to 2 to 3 years doing environmental sampling and testing with an industrial hygiene firm, and actually traveled the country climbing smokestacks and taking samples out of smokestacks all year long, which was interesting and fun all at the same time. But the interesting part about that is that introduced me to a lot of different businesses and other individuals that do a lot of what I'm doing now from that standpoint, and realized that's the type of industry that I ultimately wanted to get into. So long story short, that moved me into a career with United States Shoe Corporation, which was local to the Cincinnati area years ago, which was also tied in with a well-known company known as LensCrafters. Spent 20 years with them, and then on to the window manufacturer here in the Cincinnati area with Champion Windows, and each time progressed from environmental to safety to risk, and now with Champion Windows doing primarily their risk management.
And so are you still today with Champion?
No, right now I'm with Roto-Rooter.
You're with Roto-Rooter. And now tell me a little bit about what the risk management position, your role, does for a company like Roto-Rooter.
Well, with Roto-Rooter, we still get involved a lot with safety. My supervisor is, we have a lot in common in that area. So she and I partner a lot from the safety realm. So I continue to dabble in that. It's kind of hard to get out of that when you've done it for so many years. And but then also work with our organization to establish our policies for primary and casualty, aviation, pollution, all realms of our policies, and then spend a large chunk of our time then managing those claims. So our service industry ends up, unfortunately, with quite a few claims because we are a service industry. We do go into people's homes and take care of their plumbing issues and water restoration issues, and those often end up in claims, both from the work comp side and the general liability. And then, of course, I think a lot of us deal with the auto impact as well. So we have that also.
Zoom out a little bit when it comes to Roto-Rooter. So
yeah,
we can wrap our heads around how large of a company. Where do you span geographically? Is it all 50 states, or where are we looking?
We are national. We break out into franchise locations as well as corporately held locations. So that allows us to cover the nation as a whole. Mm-hmm. Our organization does not get too involved with the franchised locations. That we may be asked to assist with some liability issues with them, but that would be the extent of that. So for us, we've got 52 corporately held branch locations, just right around 3,500 employees in those locations that we deal with.
Wonderful. And going back to your start in the chemistry space and the environmental world, you mentioned maybe there was a tipping point where you're like, I want to kind of do that. Talk about that a little bit more. What was the thing that really made you say, I want to go for that?
Well, yeah, at that point I was in a consultant space, and that was great because I got to see a lot of different industries and how a lot of those industries worked, and that really intrigued me from that standpoint. And the desire was, you know what, I'd really like to get into a space where I can focus on a single industry and impact them in their space with whatever knowledge that I have, versus, you know, stepping in as a consultant and working with them for a little bit and then moving on. Really having an impact and knowing you've kind of put your mark on this space in this location, and helped improve an organization from, and you've made your mark.
With that singular focus, it sounds like on a specific industry, maybe on a specific company. With that said, how are you able to grow in your career? Is there one specific variable? Was a number of things that help you move up in the companies you worked in, as well as move on to maybe bigger, better roles? Talk about that.
Well, again, just being in the space and really getting involved in the business and the organization in and of itself, you know, I become personally attached to my organization, to where, you know, their money is my money and I want to see them improve. So I learned, you know, in other organizations where I did grow into their space. I'll speak to that just for a moment. You know, it was one of those, you know what, I understand this side of that part of the business, and I have some ideas that can help improve in that area. Let me see if I can get into that space and find an opening and move into there, and just, you know, move up the ladder based upon what knowledge that I have and what desires I have to continue to help improve that organization. So that's kind of the same thing that I do with any organization I've worked in, and I'm doing here at Roto-Rooter as well.
And it sounds like you're given an opportunity, or you see an opportunity to excel in your career. You maybe step into that role, fight for yourself to get in to do that thing, and maybe surround yourself with people where you can grow that area of your world, and thereby becoming an expert. On the opposite end of the coin, what obstacles do you see on a daily basis, or in your role today, or that you've seen that has kind of come up upon you in your world, and you're like, how do I defeat this? And then how do you maybe do to solve that?
That's a great question. There's, you know, I think we all all end up with some kind of obstacle along the way, and it's really hard to kind of pinpoint any particular obstacle that I remember facing. You just you come to that fork in the road, and you work with the individuals around you, and you figure out how to get to that next step, in partnership with them, and you get to the other side of that, and you look back and you're like, all right, we did it. Those are the challenges, those are the difficult times, but they're also the times you look back in organizations and say, you know, that's when I was having the most fun, is working through those obstacles and dealing with the situations that we have in partnership with other people in the industry. And that's where you grow with the people that you work with, more effectively, and get closer to them as well, because you've worked through some tough times.
That's a great answer. And, you know, it feels a lot better when you really have to work hard to defeat that thing, that problem. You really have to think, you really have to partner with people, and it just feels that much better when you do it. So
absolutely,
that's great. And then when it comes to the people that have helped you along the way, maybe these people have provided expertise, maybe they've been working within your teams. Who are those specific mentors, maybe those experts that you partner with, the people that you've worked with, either within the industry or without, that you maybe can want to mention?
Yeah, there was some great mentors within Luxottica organization that I worked in, and a lot of them were in the risk management space,
Mhm.
and they were in the operations space as well. But they had a real passion for what they did in the risk management area. Greg was one individual that I worked with at Luxottica, and he loved what he did. And his whole career, I remember one of the things that was intriguing about him is that he would come in every day and do what he needed to do, but he was always in there on a Saturday. He always came in on a Saturday to kind of clear the desk, if you will, of whatever issues, because that's just the passion that he had for what he did. And that eluded from him, and was one of those, that's a kind of individual that I'd like to I'd like to mentor with, and would sit down and actually talk to him about, what does it take to get into the space where you are at your level in the risk management area. And that was kind of the impetus of moving away from a lot of this just safety to more of the risk management area.
Got it. And sounds like you were just looking for that opportunity. You're looking for someone who's been in the role and you're willing to learn. You're willing to put ego aside,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
show a little hustle. And that's got you probably to where you are today. Where are you today? What challenges do you currently face in a company the size that you are at now at Roto-Rooter? And what does that look like?
And that's another good question. At this state in my career, I am always looking to, not always looking to just continue to climb the ladder, but kind of get to that space where I know that I'm doing an effective job with what I'm doing currently. And if the organization sees that, hey, this is now an opportunity to move you into a newer space with our growth, then we're going to tap you on the shoulder and get you there because of what you've been able to do. But I think a lot of the space in and of itself have created the obstacles and the challenges that allow us to use our knowledge to kind of figure out how do we get beyond that. Point in case, we were just talking the other day about some of the newer types of claims that we're seeing out west. And no carrier or legal team or risk management team have really figured out how do we take on those challenges with those types of claims. And so those are the obstacles that you kind of dig in and figure out, okay, what is it that we can do within our space to kind of be the leaders of, hey, we figured out what we need to do to kind of minimize this push into these types of claims in the work comp space, and that others can kind of look to and say, tell us how you did that.
Yeah.
That would be one of those challenges that would be, yeah, we did it.
Now you got my curiosity. When you say new type of claims out west, I'd love to know if you could speak to that.
I certainly will. They're cumulative trauma claims.
Okay. Talk
Yeah.
about that. What does that mean? Dive into that.
Well, cumulative trauma, we've got long-term employees in our organization, and the work that we do as plumbers, water restoration, it's hard work.
Yeah.
And so now they're pulling in claims that say, you know what, my injuries are not just specific to a specific event, they're related to my whole career. So my injury didn't start yesterday. My injury started 20 years ago, and I want to be compensated for all of this pain that's created over the last 20 plus years. And it ultimately ends up being a very large claim, because
Mhm.
what they're basically trying to say is my job created all of my
Right.
injuries, and now I'm permanently disabled because of it, and it's a result of 10 years of pain and suffering. It just builds a much larger claim for them, and they're hard to defend.
Hard to defend, hard to prove, hard to disprove.
Yes.
Sounds like, and that's a tough one because we think of like a workers' comp claim as being like a one-time incident where you maybe accidentally fell off a roof and injured your leg or something like that, or you did XYZ, you injured your back, you got a lumbar sprain. This is totally different. It sounds like it's spanning many years, not if not decades.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of
exactly.
maybe carpal tunnel that just takes years and years to manifest itself. This is hard work. Like you said, you're doing not just plumbing, but restoration services. So these people are talking about maybe big time injuries for big time areas of the body, and it can take a long time. With all that said, what would your first move have been, or what was your first move to manage this type of new injury, new claim coming your way?
Well, this is fresh and new. We really haven't come up with an answer other than, you know, kind of moving towards the how do we get our employees to continue to work in their space,
Mhm.
love their jobs to where, you know, I think we all know that, there are days we come home and we're wore out, we're tired, we're sore, but it's because we did a good job today. And I rested and I come back and I'm ready to go again versus, feeling like the daily grind is becoming so painful that it's too much for me to bear anymore. I need to get out of this space. I think that's, you know, initially that's what I think these are coming from is, it's an opportunity for me to get out of this space, kind of get an early retirement, if you will, with a large settlement
Yeah.
and then walk away. But in turn, getting to the point where it's like, this is the job. You're doing a really good job there. We need to keep you, make them feel valued, and and they don't feel like they have to file claims like that. That's my initial perspective.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different approach of managing a claim. It's managing the individual and their
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's like a leadership role. You're
That's right.
you're trying to continue to keep their morale high. So acknowledging the fact that there's an injury that happened or sustained over the course of years. Now you have to come in and say, hey, okay, we acknowledge that, but at the same time, we value you as an employee. We'd love to continue to work here. How do we help you get back to work? How do we prevent this from happening in the future? And so the dynamics there are intense. Um, so I understand that. And how has your involvement with associations helped play a factor in how you come to those resolutions, and maybe how you can speak to those other people in those associations and help guide them for similar types of claims and similar types of problems you might come across?
If you're talking about associations like RIMS and other
Yeah.
organizations like that, they're invaluable just for that very reason of kind of bouncing those thoughts and ideas off of other individuals. I mean, I love getting together with other individuals within RIMS, within our local SWOSHA and the Ohio Self-Insured and other organizations where we have like-minded opportunities and challenges, and to see, how are you guys dealing with this? How are you making people more valuable? You've got to be able to bounce those ideas off of folks. That's probably the best thing that you can get out of the camaraderie of these organizations, which is why we've got to continue to keep meeting and being together and discussing and doing the things that we're doing, like this, as a matter of fact.
Well, I hope we continue to provide value to the association. And I've loved the conversation we've had so far. I think there's plenty of great nuggets in there.
Mhm.
And for those that maybe are newer to the industry, maybe want to change, want to get into it, like much like how you did back in the day, working, chemistry degree in the chemistry world, how would you provide advice to someone who wants to get into a similar position like you are in now?
Great question, and it's. I think I would just tell them to just dive in. Find a smaller organization where you can kind of get involved in these organizations. Talk to some folks in the brokerage world and individuals within RIMS and others to find out, where are there opportunities that they could join those organizations and work their way up. Maybe stepping into a role of just managing some claims. Or within an HR department or something that allows them to get to work with individuals from different organizations. Start small and work your way up to that. That's probably the best way to get involved, is to be able to manage a small a small area of claims or an area of insurance, and then begin to move around in those spaces and capture some different skill sets as you go.
Yeah, and I love that, because if I'm hearing and recapping your journey in a nutshell, it's almost in a way we call it Forrest Gumped our way in there in a little bit. You just kind of, maybe in your right time, right place scenario, you had the background, you had the knowledge, and then you saw an opportunity, seized it, hustled, learned, put the ego aside, and continued. I think that's just exactly what you're talking about for anybody new to the industry and new to the space.
That's a great analogy, Adam. I love the Forrest analogy. That's good.
Forrest Gump. I almost said quixotic, but that's a tough word. I barely understand that word itself, but Don
you got me on
Quixote.
that one.
Well, with that said, we have our softball questions, the CincyRIMS Rapid Fire.
Okay.
A couple questions here. We do this segment for every guest, and are you a Cincinnati person born and raised?
Yes, north of the city, but yes.
Okay, north of the city. So we're going to ask you a handful of questions. Are you ready?
Let me buckle myself in here. Okay, now I'm ready.
All right. Gold Star or Skyline?
Skyline.
Skyline. What high school did you go to?
Springboro.
Springboro. Okay, a little north of downtown Cincinnati, a little north of Cincinnati itself. Reds, Bengals, or FC Cincinnati?
Reds.
Reds. True to my heart. Awesome. Anything else you want to cap off this interview? It's been great not only to meet you in face-to-face, so to speak, but it's also you got great answers. Love to hear about all those things. Anything else you want to throw out there for our viewers?
Just kind of reiterate what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, is that, what I've seen, and I'm part of some of the boards of some of our local agencies myself, and some of our challenges are getting us all back together like we used to be a number of years ago. And that camaraderie and that conversation that we all had is, let's get out and tap each other on the shoulder and kind of get back to those kind of gatherings, so that we can have this interaction more face to face versus this virtual discussions that we kind of learned to do during the year of COVID, and more of the face to face is what we need to get back to. So that would be my challenge to everybody that listens to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're not hating on the video. I think that what you're probably also trying to say, and I totally agree, is that if we can do both, and this kind of helps to support the in-person stuff, this is kind of the tip of the spear, but we want to see more people joining associations, not just RIMS, but in your community, in the spaces that talk about not just risk, but the claims and the self-insured world and all those pieces. This just helps to support that. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, technology is fantastic, but that personal touch is invaluable.
100%. Well, Robbie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on as our guest today on CincyRIMS Roll Call. I greatly appreciate you having here today. And again, my name's Adam Visnick. Thanks for allowing me to be your host. Catch you next time.
Thanks, Adam.